Well, my friends, another 24 hours has passed and I took the clamps off the bridge. I have laid a straight edge on the neck, and it just coincidental that it's exactly the right length from there to here. I mean, it fits exact. In fact, I can pick up the guitar with it. It just fits in there just snug. But the point of it is, I've laid it on the fretboard here flat, and you can see that it goes nearly a 1/4 inch below. In fact, it hits the top of the guitar, and it should be right at the top of this bridge and maybe just a 40 thousandths higher. So it really should be like this. So you can see how much the neck angle is wrong there. It's pretty bad. So the neck has to be reset on this, and otherwise it'll never play like this. I also have to fix the back, and you know, the back here is loose, and this is loose here. The top is loose from the sides. I'm just not sure which order to do it in. I don't think it's going to make that much difference. I would like to get the neck out of it, and then I might fix the body and then put the neck back in it. I think that's the order I'd like to do it in. So I'm going to pull this fret here and see if, after pulling this fret, to see if we can drill holes and hit the neck pocket. That would be really nice if that would happen. I'm gonna, before I get that all the way out, I'm gonna hopefully mark this fret and keep this end down here. That'll be the treble end. I can see it's starting to chip out already, so I'm gonna get some water. It's really hard to pull these out without them chipping. What that does is it makes the fiber soft enough where you can pull the fret out without it chipping it out. Some people say, well, that swells the wood up, but the truth is wood doesn't swell lengthwise very much at all. Almost none. It swells widthwise. It swells this way. That should help a little bit. Let's see if we can pull it out now without it chipping out too much. Yeah, that's better. It chipped a little bit right there at the end, but the rest of it didn't chip. Okay, and of course, already the ink has come off of this, so I haven't turned it around, so I'll put the ink back on here. Hopefully it'll stay. Okay, so now I'm going to try drilling and seeing if we can accidentally hit that pocket. I'm going to start with a real small drill bit. That way I don't have big holes here. Let's just see if we can hit the pocket and get lucky. That would be really nice. I don't feel like I hit it. Might have hit it there, but I'm not sure. I don't know, go forwards or backwards here. I don't feel like I'm hitting it. There, I think I hit it. So it looks... Not 100% sure about that. I'm going to see if we can get some moisture down in here and get this whole thing off. I'm going to try to do it without having to take the fretboard off. That would be the best possible scenario. Don't know if that'll work or not. Got my little heater out, my homemade heater. You can see it's up to 411 or 12 degrees. That's basically up to temperature. 420 is what I have it set at. And it's been warming up here for a little while, so I'm going to see if we can get this part loose from the guitar top. See if it'll go in there. It's starting. Heat this up to get the glue off of there, because that glue keeps you from going in there.
Farmer, I scrape a living from the soul, like my father before me.
There we go. We're up that far, so that's not too bad. There we go. I think we're there. Yeah, I think we're as far as we need to be there. Now I'll get out the steamer and see if we can get some steam down through there and maybe get this neck loose. That would really be nice. I don't know if it feels like it's loose yet or not. Oh, it's already loose. Wow, that's good. Now that we got, that's cool. Oh wow, that's awesome. It's loose. So it's a good thing that we did this anyway. Look at there. It was loose. That hide glue, it just doesn't like to hold. That's all there is to it. You can see here I missed the pocket by a lot. I thought I was missing it. So it's good that it just came out on its own. I am so tickled with that. You just really don't know how happy that makes me. We'll fix it where that won't happen, where it won't come loose like that again. Now that I got the neck out of there, I thought I'd turn my attention to this back end. And guess what? I can't push that even a tiny bit. I can get it to move a few thousandths, but that's it. Man, there's no chance of this side coming back out to meet this guitar top. It's just not going to happen. Man, I'm pushing hard and it doesn't move at all. It's nowhere near. If you can see there, it needs to go 175, 200 thousandths of an inch. It's got a long ways to go. It's got to go about 5 millimeters. It'll move about 1 millimeter, and that's it. So I'll have to do some thinking on that one. Well, this is kind of a weird contraption here. I set this clamp up to be a spreader. Instead of closing together, it's pushing apart. I have a block of wood in here underneath the top that you can't really see, and I have a long stick of wood going all the way back to this top edge of the block back here. A long piece of wood. So it's pushing on that long piece of wood, this is pushing on the block. You can see that I've got it stretched out to almost where it needs to be. And I'm just going to let it sit there. Now I had to put this extra little clamp on the spring clamp on the top because this isn't strong enough to hold it by itself. So the spring clamp just keeps that closed together. When I let go of that, it just springs back because there's so much pressure on this. So I'm just going to let it sit there like that for a while, maybe a couple hours, maybe longer. Maybe it'll relax a little bit, maybe overnight even. And just let it sit there, and hopefully it'll relax it enough to get some glue on that and some clamps on that. This is close enough now, I'd be satisfied with that because I could round this little tiny bit off and you'd never know it. I'm almost happy with where it's at right there. I'm tempted to just glue it right now, but I think instead I'll just let it sit there for a while and maybe it'll relax enough that we can get it the last little bit. It's the next day, and I've put a little more pressure on this, and I've got it drawn all the way out to the back. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, go in here, and try to just scrape out the hide glue that's in here. Using the back edge of the X-Acto knife, and you can see, maybe you can see stuff just coming out of there. It just lifts, it just pulls the junk out. Okay, that looks really good actually, so I'm going to get some clamps and get some glue in here. You can probably see I've got some wedges in this now, and I'm putting the glue in here along this crack. Once again, I'll use a paintbrush. Paintbrush is my preferred method, versus a syringe or anything like that. I can work the bristles down in there and it works great for me. I have more trouble with syringes than anything else I've ever tried. They just don't work for me at all. I know other people seem to get along with them just fine, but I don't.
I labor and toil, but my father said, son.
Well, that looks pretty darn good to me, so taking that out, clean up the excess glue here.
You should move away. He said farm life is dying.
That looks really good to me. I'm amazed how good it came out. Alright, so now we'll get these clamps on here, and that'll give the final bit of strength to the little spreader that I've got going on there. This will help the spreader not be strained so much. a little concerned that this bevel on this edge of this is going to make these clamps hard to stay on here, I think. May have to go to the bigger clamps like this because these edges are so beveled that the clamp is barely able to get enough real estate there to pinch down without sliding off.
Son, please don't stay. I moved to the city and
you can see that I'm putting these clamps very close together, and that's because you need to do that. The closer you can keep them together, the better your job will be on your glue up. I think that's it right there. All right, we'll let that set for 24 hours. I'm going to try to get in there and clean up this glue squeeze out, but that might be a little difficult. I'll do that off camera. My friends, one more day has passed here on the Washburn project, and I think we're ready to take this rig off of here so we can take this spreader off, and you can see there it released the tension and the blocks fell out. And so here's what I had inside there pushing against that back tail block, and here's the block I had on the inside pushing against the neck. And that worked great because it brought it right out flush. And now we can take these clamps off and get rid of that. There was a lot of glue squeeze out on this, and so the glue actually got up on these clamps a little bit, but there's leather on there, so that should allow me to get them loose at least. And we'll have to clean this up a little bit, but it really, other than the glue mess that you can see there, it really did bring it right out perfect. I mean, you can't even tell it was ever broke now. And this whitish stuff we can wash off with water. It'll come right off. But that did fix it up really nice. I think we're in very good shape now. Can't remember if I actually showed this or not, but I did get glue in these back seams on here, and I am now taking the clamps off, so we'll have to clean that up. I have washed the guitar in the meantime also off camera. Of course, I'll have to wash it again here around this glue area, but this white stuff just wipes right off with water. This here, it looks like that's, I hope that's just part of the leather that's stuck there. I think it is. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just leather that's stuck on there. I'll have to clean that off. But anyway, we got that all up in good shape now, so we'll wash that down and I'll show you what that looks like. My friends, another day has dawned on the Washburn project, and you can see I've got the clamps off of it. So the body is basically pretty stable on the outside, it looks like. But we need to tap on it and see what's going on here. I've already done that, so I'll tell you there's a problem. Can you hear that extra little rattle? Seems like it's right in here. It seems like there's a loose brace. So there's something going on there. I've got to get inside and see if I can find what the problem is. So I'm reaching around on the inside in here, see if I can feel a loose brace. It may not be loose on the ends, it might be loose in the middle. That's unusual, but that's what it feels like. I'm gonna have to get in there with a light and a mirror and see if I can see anything. It's not easy when you're trying to look in there. There's something loose, I'm just sure of it. I really don't see anything loose. I'll try to get the light behind the braces where I can see if there's, I don't think it's going to let me. This body is so thin it won't let me get in there. Yeah, maybe I could do it this way. Just see if I can see light coming under the brace anywhere.
I thought of my father and how the crops would get.
I wonder if it's on the top. It sure sounded like it was a back problem, but maybe it's the top.
I could hear him say, son, you should move away.
They all look pretty good to me. I don't know. I'm going to scratch my head on this one a little bit. see if I can figure out what's going on. Well, I spent quite a bit of time looking for something loose on this instrument, and I can't find it. I know there's got to be something in there causing that little bit of a rattle, but I sure can't find a brace or a side loose or anything. So I'm going to skip that for a while, maybe come back to it. I'm cleaning up this neck now. There's just tons of the hide glue that's on here that's just, you can just see it shattering. It's just kind of like glass. Especially once it gets old, it just turns to just almost like a real thin glass. So I just want all that off and out of there. Just get it as clean as I can get it.
He said farm life is dying. Son, please don't stay.
Interesting feature I noticed is that this has a number 10 penciled on here, and this has a number 10 penciled on there also. So I'm sure that's how they kept them together at the factory or whatever they were doing there. Interesting on this side, it seems to be deeper over here, a little deeper this way, and there's like a little notch out of it down in here. There's a little deeper trench. On this side, it's pretty flat and smooth, so it was carved differently for some reason. Just trying to get every little bit of that glue off of there that I can get off, because I want my glue to be on bare wood. Yeah, that little notch down in there makes it hard to get the glue out of there too. I don't know why that was done that way. It's kind of unusual. It can't make the joint better. Well, at least unless the other side's carved that exact same way, which I doubt. I think that's got that side fairly clean. Now I'll do the very same thing to this, and I'll do that off camera. Well, I've got both joints cleaned pretty well, and the problem is, honestly, it's still kind of a loose joint. You can see there it wiggles quite a bit, and it even wiggles up and down a little bit. That's just not acceptable. It's going to have to be a very tight joint. If you can put glue in there and it'll stabilize to a certain degree, but that glue isn't meant to span a gap. It just isn't, and it'll never be strong. So that's not the way we're going to fly. We're going to put this straight edge on here and figure out how to get this angle right. And quite honestly, that may be a problem. If you look here, you can probably see I've got a 1/16 of an inch gap here touching down here on both sides. Well, that actually does get me just about where I want to be, but we can't leave it like that. We're going to have to cut some off the bottom of this to bring it up to this even so that this sits in there even, and then we're going to have to shim it tight. So this is going to be quite a process, and it's even harder when you got that kind of a looseness to it. Wow, it's really going to be a tough one. It's easier when the fretboard's off, but I don't want to take the whole fretboard off and mess up the whole neck down through here. I got my work cut out for me, and I'll have to just think about it for a minute and figure it out. Well, I'm pondering some of the other issues. I think I'll go ahead and put this one fret back in here so I don't forget, and try to put it back in after I get the neck in. It's easier to do it this way. I can pound on it, don't have to worry about it. But I want to clean out this hole first. Slot is clogged up. I'm not exactly sure why. I'd get the fret saw out and saw that slot back in there, because it's definitely closed up for some reason.
I returned for a visit, but I was too late.
Yeah, I don't really know what was going on there, but something happened.
My father lay down knew it was fate.
Well, look at there. This one bounced out for some reason. That didn't help nothing. I think we're back together. We'll have to clean that up a little bit. Where I drilled those holes and stuff, we'll have to clean that up a little bit, but otherwise I think we're in fine shape. While I'm contemplating all the different issues here on this neck angle, I'm going to go ahead and glue this back down. This came loose a little bit right in here, and I'm going to get that glued back up so that I don't have to deal with that little extra movement when I'm trying to fit the neck angle up properly.
But he turned and said, son, you should move away. I just couldn't leave him.
Quite a bit of glue in there just to make it get down in there pretty good. I think it's working. I think that's going to be fine. I think that'll be fine. I'll go ahead and get the clamps on that. I'll show you what that looks like. I put this kind of clamp on there because I really can't clamp anywhere else, so I wanted something that would span all the way across there. This seems to be doing a pretty good job. Well, this has been glued up for 4 or 5 hours, so I'm going to take the clamp off of here. I had that fret clamped in there too, just trying to keep it to hold its position there. It's going to need some glue probably too, but we'll worry about that later. I think that's really good. The trick now is to fit this thing up tight and get the angle right. That's the key to it. Not exactly sure how I'm going to go about that yet. I know it's going to need to get pulled in at the bottom a little bit more in order to get that angle right. It's not far off. It's really close now, but you can see the gap at the top here. So the bottom has to be, you know, taken off to close that gap, and then we'll have to shim it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go for it. You know, I'm sure there's ways you could try to measure all this out, but I just do it by sheer experience. I know about how much I need to take off there, and that's what I'm going to take off. The trick of it is that you have to shave toward the center constantly, because if you let this go outside, it will chip the finish every single time. And you can ask me how I know, but trust me, I know. This heel cap is ebony, so it's really hard. So I'm fighting that just a little bit. It's really going to be tough to keep this straight and flat and all that, and also show you what I'm doing in the camera, because it's just not that easy to do.
And he knew I would stay. Now I'm an old dirt farmer. I scrape a living.
It doesn't take a lot sometimes, so you know, it's better to check it frequently than it is to do a lot and then wish you hadn't. This is so narrow. Generally they're bigger and it's not that hard to get in there, but this is so small that this is actually kind of hard to do. I'm trying to think if I have a better way of approaching this, but I can't think of one right now.
From the soul, like my father before me, I labor and toil.
I'm going to just keep doing that off camera here for a while, because that's just all I'm going to be doing is just trimming this off, and I'll show you as I move forward. I've got the neck angle pretty close. I'm not saying it's perfect. I've made some little tiny shims here to stick in here, and I'm not sure these are going to work yet, but this will be my first try to fit it up. Wow, they almost go all the way down. That's pretty good. It's not going by about a 1/8 inch. Is it as tight as I wanted? I'm not sure about that yet, but it's not bad. Reasonably tight fit. It almost holds in there. So you can see I can kind of pick it up and move it around now. The neck isn't falling out. Pretty close. You know, the angle though won't be right yet because it's too high. Looking down at the angle starting to look pretty good. I think I'll have to put some carbon paper in there and figure out where that's rubbing. The easier way for me is to glue it to this, to the neck, and then put carbon paper on it, and then I can carve the shims down. So maybe I'll do that. Kind of complicated, kind of complicated. You can almost see how much I've taken off of this based on the fact that these shims are the same width, and they're the same thickness back here, but they're thinner up here, so that kind of tells you I've carved away from this a little bit. That helps a lot. It's still maybe not enough yet. I think I'm going to go ahead and get this glued up. Maybe just let it set overnight. Tomorrow, fit it to the neck better, because I think we're close enough that we can do that. Definitely closer than it's probably been in a very, very long time. The way I might clamp this is just to stick it in the neck and let the pressure clamp this in there. That's probably the easiest way, as long as I don't get enough squeeze out to cause it to glue itself in there. That's the trick. So I'm only going to put a very light amount of glue on this.
What do I do with all my sorrow, with all the loss I've gained, while I'm waiting?
So we got a shim on each side there now. It doesn't look like there's going to be any real squeeze out to worry about. Just kind of squeezing it there and making sure and wiping it off. I think I can stick it down in there and use that for my clamp. It should conform pretty good that way. And just to play it safe, let me see if I can get it out of there. The two stuck to here and did not stick to there. I don't see any squeeze out, so I think we're safe. And what I'll do, just to give it a little bit of extra, is I'll force it down in there just a little bit, not a lot of pressure, just to keep it so it doesn't come out overnight. And I think I'll let it set overnight like that. The shims are on there now and the glue is dry. It's the next day, so I've got two little pieces of carbon paper already sitting in the groove here. I'm going to see if this will rub off on this. So I'm going to rub this around, and hopefully the carbon paper will rub off on those shims where I need to cut them. Not very much. A little bit up here. Not very much. I'm surprised it didn't rub off more than that. Well, I've got to trim off what I can. So rubbing a little bit up here, but I'm not going to do much there. I'm just going to scrape that, I think. I'm not going to cut it.
For tomorrow, what do I do with all the pain I am making?
Squeeze it in there again and tighten it down. Kind of tap on it a little bit to maybe hopefully make that show up a little bit better. And you can see it there and there.
Like a river swelling well outside its banks, I am longing like...
It really doesn't fit like I wish it would fit. I mean, it's pretty tight, but I don't know. I'm a little bit leery of it. Only thing I know to do is keep fitting this in there and trying it out, and I'll do most of that off camera at this point. You saw what I'm doing there, and I'll just keep doing that until I get it to fit right. I believe I have the neck angle approximately where it should be. Quite honestly, I'd like to see it go down just a hair more. It just barely clears the bridge. I think it'll be okay. I'm going to really make a good effort when I glue it to make sure that it's pulled down as tight as I can pull it down and all that, and glue it into place. I think it'll be fine, but it is right on the edge, I'll be honest. But boy, I don't know what else to do with it. It's cut so narrow and everything. I just hate to try to recut and reinvent the whole wheel, you know. I think it'll be okay. I can always take the bridge down a teeny bit if I need to, because this is, you know, a full height bridge. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna take this apart, get the glue on it, and we'll go from there. Well, I thought I had the camera on, but I put this clamp on. I put this body clamp around here to draw the neck in as tight as I can at the base. And then I put this spring clamp on here to keep the fretboard flat. I checked the angle, and it clears it by just about the perfect amount. So that's about as good as I can do. We're going to let it set overnight. Now, my friends, another weekend has passed on this project. You can see I put the original tailpiece back on here so that I could just test the intonation. I have a very low saddle on this. I'm just checking where I need to locate the saddle. I've got the tuner sitting here. You probably won't be able to see it very well, but right about dead center. Might be a hair sharp. Just a hair sharp, so have to slide that back just a teeny bit. I was hoping they didn't have to go back much because I don't have a lot of room for the holes. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. I think I'm probably going to mark it right there. That'll give me enough room still to put the holes behind there. So I'm going to mark the front edge of this under each string. I just need to get my little marking gauge for marking the holes and get that centered up, and we should be good to go. Well, I've got my drill rig on here that my viewer sent to me, and it's wonderful.
The water for a resting place.
Hopefully the pin will go down in there and kind of get stuck in that hole. That would be nice. And then I'll just kind of move this way a little bit where I can give myself enough room to get in there and do the next one.
Forever, but it still hurts inside, and I feel that I'm drowned.
Well, I got the pins to work there finally. They were giving me a little trouble, but anyway, now I'm ready to drill the other 4 holes.
And all the tears I've cried, I am making.
Well, that ought to do it. Does a nice job. So now we can move on to the next step. Well, I got the holes drilled through there, and I even got them a little bit countersunk. So now I'm going to just put the reamer through until I can feel the end of the reamer come in through the hole there. That's my key right there. It is.
Like a river swelling well outside its banks, I am longing like the water.
Gonna have to cut the slot in there next. I'm not looking forward to that, but we can get her done. Well, I've got my rig set up here to cut the slot. Got my router all set for 100 thousandths depth. So let's see what happens. This is always the trickiest part of this operation because it can all go south in a heartbeat and just ruin everything. Just hope that doesn't happen.
For a resting
It looks pretty good. I'm going to set it for another 100 thousandths and we'll go again. Okay, here comes pass number 2. This one's even probably more critical than the first one. You'd think I'd get used to doing that, but that's really a touchy operation right there. Well, I made the saddle off camera. I have put it in the slot. It fits the slot very well, but I can tell I'm not going deep enough. That's only 100 thousandths, I'm sure. Even though it's such a minor difference from one pass to the next, there's always a tiny, tiny, tiny shelf. So you pretty much have to go in there and clean it off. I'm not sure which side the shelf is on. You can't really see it. That got hot and burnt my finger, believe it or not, rubbing that across there like that. That is weird. That was these new blue X-Acto blades. I really like them. They're very good blades. I'm going to have to put a link in my products I use page to these because these are really good blades. I want to thank Viewer again for sending these to me. These might even be better than the original X-Acto blades that were really good. These might even be better than that. Well, let's see if that made any difference. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's got to go deeper than that. I'm pretty sure we're only going half depth. Part of the problem is sometimes this little edge is so sharp, it'll catch on stuff. So what you do is you just knock the corner off just ever so slightly. Again, I'm not trying to make a big bevel. Just getting rid of the sharpness. And the same on the ends, because the ends can catch too. In fact, the ends are very likely to be the place where it's catching if you've got a real tight fit. I don't think that did it. I'm going to tap it lightly. Got my fingers supporting the bridge plate when I do that. I'm going to see what that looks like. Yeah, that didn't change it as much as I was hoping, actually.
What do we do with all our songs?
Trying to cut off the bottom of the slot, not the top. There's a little splinter right there that's getting me. I think that's what got me the last time. I thought it burnt me, but I think it's this little splinter. So I got to get rid of that. In fact, I think I'm going to put a little CA glue right there. It's like it's just lifted up just a teeny bit. I'm going to hold that down while I spritz it.
With all the loss we gain, I believe there come tomorrow.
Are we getting any better? I don't think so, actually. It might just be it's just a hair too thick, but I don't hardly think that's the problem. Let me double check. Maybe it's my eyes playing tricks on me. Maybe we're all the way down and I just don't think so. This should measure in the neighborhood of 200 thousandths. 173, so it's not as deep as I thought. 176, so let me, yeah, but it still should go deeper than that. You can see there the pencil line is below the, it should go further than it is going. Just not sure why it's not. Kind of think it's the ends holding it, is what I kind of think, and it's really hard to get the ends rounded off. Well, so far I haven't broken the tip off of that, which is a real plus because they usually break off pretty easily, actually. The new ones, the new X-Acto blades, the ones that come from X-Acto or whatever, are usually soft and they bend now. They used to be brittle and strong like these, but they bend now. You know, this says X-Acto, so this must be from the X-Acto company. Regardless, these are really good blades, these blue ones. I don't think it's going to go yet. All right, well, maybe I'll whisper a thousandth off of this. Well, I ran it through my thickness sander. You can see I didn't even get all the pencil mark off, so that did take 1/1000th off. We're at 99 thousandths now, where I had it at 100 before. Still feels like it's a little tight. I would say it feels kind of like it's rocking in the middle.
We may blossom from the rain. I am aching like a river.
Now I'm going to try it one more time, and if that don't go, I'm going to have to make it a little thinner. Well, I think it might have went on the one end now, maybe. There, I think it might be going. It's getting closer. I'm going to tap it lightly. Sounds a lot worse than it is because, like I said, I'm supporting it directly underneath there with my fingers. That looks better, but let's see if it is better. Now it's just getting it back out of there. Oh yeah, I think that's it right there. I think we're at full depth. I think I will just bevel a little bit more off of this because that could be part of the problem still.
Swelling well outside its base, I am longing like the water.
We're going to need a pretty low saddle on this. I've got way more sticking out than we need, I know that. I want to make sure it's all the way down before I go cutting it off. The saddle I used for setup on this is definitely tall enough. Now if I can just find it. I had it laying here and I don't see it. Doggone it anyway. I purposely didn't put it away so I could use it, and yet I don't see it. So I'll have to find that. Well, I don't know if I found the right one or not, but I found one that I think is about the same height, maybe even taller. But we'll be fine with that, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna pull this back out and go profile it. All right, so you can see my mark there. It's a good width saddle, but yet it's not gonna be very tall off of the bridge. Well, these pins don't have a groove in them, so I'm gonna take the Dremel and put the groove in these. I started this one off camera. I might mention that my friend J.P. Cormier up in Canada, he's not a fan of these ebony pins, and I'm not necessarily a fan of them either, but I think that's period correct for this guitar, and that's the reason I'm using them. I'm not as concerned about getting every bit of sound out of this guitar as I am of trying to get it back to the way it was originally, and I really think it would have had ebony pins in it, so that's what I'm using. Okay, well, we've got them all notched out now. Now I'm going to go bevel each one. Next, I would ordinarily string it up, but I think I'm going to run a fret leveling file on these frets to make sure they're good and level. And I might clean up the fingerboard a little bit and clean up the peg head and maybe even clean up the whole guitar a little more. I wiped the whole body down with warm water, and that got rid of most of the mildew and dark stuff, but I might take linseed oil and wipe over the whole thing. So I'm going to do most of that off camera. I'll clean it up. If I run into anything you should see, I'll show you. I think I'm going to bite the bullet and take all these apart, clean them, buff them out as much as I can, and put them back together, oil them if necessary, whatever it needs. Actually, you don't want to do too much on the oil side with these because these are friction tuners. So you definitely want friction, but on the other hand, you want all the parts to match up and fit well. I'm a little bit afraid to start this. I'm afraid I'm opening up a can of worms, but on the other hand, if you're going to fix up an old guitar like this and make it nice, I want to make it as nice as I can, and I do want to leave these friction tuners on it for the period correctness. If they work better, then that's a plus. I've had these things apart before, so it's not my first rodeo. Yeah, see, that's all there is. It's just friction. You tighten this down and it gets tighter. It just mashes the peg head tighter is all it does. I don't know if I should keep the parts separate or not, but I guess I will. Not that it's going to make much difference. I think I'm going to take the pegs themselves to, a buffing wheel or something and try to get them shined up. The parts that show on the chrome, Like somebody had put paper in places, I don't know, or maybe it had paper bushings or something at one time. Looks like it might have been wood in this case. Maybe they were trying to fill the hole in where it was wallowed out. I don't know. Like I said, I could be opening up a can of worms here. You don't know. On the other hand, I'd like to get it as good as I can get it. Well, wouldn't you know, the last one, wouldn't you just know? The last one always is the way it always works that way. The last one's always the tough one. Yep, it never fails. I think that happens 99 times out of 100. Well, you can see how by tightening them up, they have made depressions or dents in the peg head there. But that's the way they work, I imagine you can see a fairly significant difference between the two parts there, side by side. So this is much nicer. It looks almost brand new, certainly well cared for, and it looks old. It looks antique-y. This here, just nasty looking tarnish is all it is. So I guess I've got my work cut out for me to do that on all of them. The screws are steel, and I didn't know if they would clean up, but I think you can see there that it's fairly obvious. This one here's been cleaned up on the end, and that one there is still pretty tarnished. So I think it looks much better, and we're going to go ahead and do that to all the screws as well. Well, got them all cleaned up. I think you can see how they shine there. They look nice, and we're going to probably put a drop of oil on the threads of each screw, mainly because the screws themselves don't seem to have anything to do with the friction other than they tighten it up. So if you can keep the screw from wearing out due to tightening, then I think we're ahead of the ball game. So that's what I'm going to do, put a little drop of oil on those. Well, yet another day has dawned on the project. So I'm going to touch this up with a little bit of Be Good oil now on the fretboard. It's looking pretty good. I think I'll go ahead and wipe a little bit on the bridge back here. Doesn't take very much. Now I think I'm going to get some boiled linseed oil. I'm going to pretty much wipe down the whole instrument with that. The little nicks and scratches look pretty much just go away. I'm still debating on what I want to do back here on this area. It just totally by accident, this got filled in with some leather, and I don't like that, but I had those leather pads on there, and the glue stuck to the leather and stuck it down in there. So I may have to take that back out. I don't know about that part yet. Whatever I do here, it's going to look bad anyway. So, quite honestly, the leather almost looks as good as anything else I can think to put in there. I know it sounds terrible, but that's kind of the truth of it, because no matter what you put in there, it's not going to match. All right, I've got the boiled linseed oil here. Just going to pour a little bit on this rag, and then I'm just going to start wiping it pretty much everywhere. We'll just smear it around. It just kind of helps the little scratches and things kind of go away and look a little better. It kind of helps rejuvenate these old finishes and brings them back to life a little bit. Then once you get it on there, then you basically just wipe it right back off. You don't leave it on. Looks really nice, see? And we're going to do that over the whole instrument, so I won't bore you with that, but that's what I'm going to do. One of the things I noticed on these tuners is that they had like paper washers, and I thought, well, what am I going to do about that? And then I remembered I've got a laser cutter. So I made my own paper washers, and as you can see, they fit right up, no problem at all. so it takes 2 washers per tuning key, and all I got to do is get them in my hand here, and they go like that. And so that should work really well. All right, I'm going to show the installation of this first one for sure, and maybe some more, but I'm going to put a little drop of 3-in-1 oil on this shaft, and I'm going to rub it in kind of on this shaft to give it a little lubrication. They're pretty dried out, these old shafts. They're a little bit rusty and all that. Certainly won't hurt anything, I don't think. And then we'll have to do this in sections, and we'll get that one on there, and we'll get this one on here. All right, so I got that squeezed together there. Now I can put the wood back on this, and then put the freshly oiled screw in here, and hopefully it's going to work. We've got the washers in place. The nice thing about that laser cutter is if some of these washers get deformed or messed up, I can always make new ones real easy. Yeah, that's pretty good. It definitely moves better than it did before. I think with the new paper washer is what helps. That feels nice and snug. I don't know if that'll be snug enough to hold the tension of the string, but right now it seems like it will be. Well, now that you see the process, I'll do the rest of them and show you the results. I don't know. I haven't tuned it yet, so let's tune it and see how bad we are, because I know we're a little bit high already, and of course I can take the saddle down, but we might as well tune it. Okay, well, it's already starting to slip here, so these are going to take some adjustment to get them just right. That seems pretty good. Seems like that's holding. Have to tighten each one up as I go just a little bit. This doesn't need much. A little bit goes a long way on these kinds of things. Obviously, we've gone to mechanical tuning keys for a reason, but these seem to be working pretty well. The nut on this is really messed up, and I'm really going to have to make a new nut, I'm sure of that. I thought I'd just go ahead and tune it up though and see where I'm at. I've noticed that tuning them down is difficult because if you go past the note and you try to go back down, it's really, you know, the tension of the string is pulling it. Aha, there you go. Not too bad, not too shabby. The action's a little high, it isn't crazy high, so we may be okay. Let's see what we can do to play it a little bit. Probably losing tune partly because of brand new strings and partly because I may not have these adjusted just right yet. Tuning it down is difficult, I will say that for sure. Tuning up to the note is fairly simple. Quite honestly, the chord looks like it's sharp, I'll be honest with you. Looks like it's about 10 cents sharp. I don't know how, because the string should have been pretty close. It's good 10 cents sharp. That one's not too bad. Yeah, the B's sharp. That's a little sharp. And it could be because the action's so high, that could be part of it. And the nut isn't that great. So I'm going to have to do some more playing with this before I call this good enough, because it's not quite good enough yet. It's getting pretty close. It's probably better than it's been in 100 years, but it's still not just right. The action's not great, it's not even, but it's not horrible. It's about 120 thousandths, so it's almost an eighth of an inch, which sounds crazy high, but if you got it down to 100 thousandths, that's perfectly acceptable. It's not that high on this side. Well, we are too, I guess. We're getting close to the same on this side. We're about 115 on this side. But regardless, I've got room to take the saddle down, so I think I can get this down to a reasonable height. I think I really will have to make a new nut. This nut just isn't that good, or I might get away with being able to file it, because it is a little high, so I might be able to just file it, and I prefer to do that, because having to make a new nut adds at least an hour and a half to the project, which is $150. So, you know, if I can fix it without doing that, we'll do it. Ain't nothing to it except to do it, so I'll get started. We're down to the final tweaking. I've already cut the saddle down. I even cut the bridge down a little bit, and I think I've got that end okay now. I think it's going to be fine. I was trying to live with this nut, and I just can't do it. It's just horrible. They had so many grooves in it. They really weren't even in the right place. There was many to choose from, and none of them were right. So that's how bad it was. And I tried to get it out by tapping on it. It wouldn't come. It's an ebony nut. It's really old and really brittle. So I've just got to carve it out of here. That's the only thing I know to do. It won't take very long. It's just a tedious little job. I'm just trying not to do any damage to anything is the biggest thing. That thing had welded itself in place, I'll tell you that. It didn't want to come out, and it's still not wanting to come out. It's, you know, when you want that hide glue to hold, it won't do it. But when you get in a place like this, it's stuck like concrete. I'll get it. It's just going to take a little bit of work. So I'll show you the results when I get further along. Well, I made a ebony blank that fits that spot perfectly. As you can see, it lifts the guitar. It's that tight, yet it's not so tight you can't take it out. But that's the way you want these things to fit, see? So I've got that in there. Now I'm going to take my real fine Pentel pencil here. Actually, it's a Graph Gear Pentel, Graph Gear 1000 Pentel. And I'm going to mark this very carefully, because I want it to actually match the profile of the neck here, because there is a profile here. And now I'll go to the sander and sand this off to where that pencil mark just disappears. And I mean, like, the instant it disappears, that's when you stop. Okay, the nut's in there and it fits absolutely perfect. Now I need to mark off a height, because this is way high. And I'm just taking a pencil, laying it across there and doing this. That'll give me a good rough estimate. That's going to be still way high, but I can cut on the lower side of that line and I'll still be high. So I'll just do that to get me in the ballpark. Okay, I think that worked out pretty darn good. Now I'm going to go to my sander and bevel the front edge down and kind of maybe round it a little bit. This is a flat fretboard though. It's not a radius fretboard, so we don't want to put much of a crown or anything to that, but I do want to dress it up a little bit, make it look a little better. Well, that gives me a bevel across there now. I don't know if that'll show up for you or not, but the top is beveled like this. So now I'm going to round that off. Well, that's just the rough edge there. That just rounded off the front edge. And you can see there the profile of it now. I think looks pretty decent. Get the light there where you can see it maybe a little better. So that's looking pretty good. Now typically I don't like these sharp corners and things, so I like to round those off a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of work on that individually here on each end. And just get rid of the sharpness there, because you just don't want sharp stuff where your hands are going to be running around there. That looks pretty good. Let me try to do the same thing to this side. Looks pretty decent. Let's put it in the guitar and see what we think we need to do to it. Well, overall it looks pretty good. It's still a little tall. So I could take off some more of this and round it off a little more and knock off a little bit of this edge. I think I'm going to try to just give me a pencil line to shoot for the height. That should work. So I'm going to go over to the sander and knock it back down to that line there, to that line basically disappears, and then I'll re-round some more. Okay, I think I've got this nut in pretty good shape. I even did do a little light sanding on it. I'm going to put just a drop or two of this superphatic glue on here. When I say a drop or two, that's what I meant, but it kind of came out a little faster than I was anticipating. So let me just wipe up a little bit of that, because we don't need all that. That glue dries pretty fast, so it'll be set up pretty quickly. I'll move on to marking it off for the strings and get the spacing hopefully better than they had it, because it was pretty bad. For marking this off, there's all kinds of string gauges and things you could use, but I have my own method and it works no matter what size the neck is or, anything. So what I do is I just eyeball where I want that string to land kind of on this line here. I look at that line and I eyeball that, and I do the same thing on this side, try to get them about even. And then I just try to estimate by eye about where I think the next one's going to go. So what I do is I put a mark on this one here, and then I try to put a mark about where I think the next one should go. And then I just use that as my indicator. Put my mark there, go down to the next one, put my mark there. And most likely I won't be right, especially the first time. But you'd be surprised how close I get. That's pretty close. It just needs to go that way a little bit. So really, this mark here just needs to be a hair fatter. So I'll just know that. I'll just know to mark it at the slightly wider spot there. And just a hair makes a big difference. So let's try it again. This time I'm going to do it the easier way. Put it this side. It makes it easier. Yeah, that's actually a hair too wide. Alright, so I got to go right in between those two marks this time, and it'll be right. I know that seems like a big hassle for most people, but for me it works pretty good. So I just go right in the middle of that mark now. Yeah, that worked great. Perfect. All right, so that marks them out even all the way across there. And, it took me 3 tries, but, what's the big deal? Not that big a deal. Sometimes I get it on 2, sometimes I even get it on 1, Now, the trick here, again, as I always say, is follow the peg head. Keep the angle of your peg head there and keep it consistent. Don't let it rock. That's the main thing. Since this is wood, I don't really have to do anything more than use the file because it's soft. The odds are I won't have them deep enough, and that's okay. I don't plan to get them as deep as they need to be on the first try. Alright, that ought to at least get me in the ballpark, so I'll put the strings back on here and I'll show you the next step. Well, my friends, this 1884-ish Washburn parlor guitar is up in really good shape now. I'm really happy with it. The action on it is about 85 to 90 at the 12th fret, which is really very good. Probably never been that good in its life. The action up here is, a tight, say 16 thousandths, roughly, something in that neighborhood. Got that new nut made and put up there, and it looks nice. Everything's really good on it. No, I never did find that little rattle, but it only happens when I really pound on it, with the fleshy part of my finger on the back. So I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's maybe just a teeny piece of loose kerf or something like that. If it was a structural issue, I think I would have found it by now. I don't think it's structural at all. Anyway, it's in very, very good shape. I don't think it's been in this good a shape for probably at least 50 years, if not a lot longer. And these friction tuning keys, amazingly enough, seem to work pretty well. I'll sing my song I wrote about the 1884-ish home place back there where Sarah lost her ring. I have evidence that they were involved in the Civil War, so that's how the song starts off. I hope you enjoy it. Sarah married John in '64. In that same year he marched off to war, leaving Sarah in the valley all alone. But that would change soon after he had gone. She washed the baby's clothes in the nearby spring, and it was there she lost her precious wedding ring. Feeling more alone, she longed for his return. The nights were long as her heart would yearn. 160 years pass into view, and her precious wedding band was found anew. It was as if her soul were there for all to see. Sarah, John, and the baby. The war raged on as Sarah made her way. The baby grew more like John every day. She prayed that one day soon the war would end, and she'd see John coming round the bend. Despite the odds, John made his way home. Though weak and sick, Sarah would hang on, till the baby's daddy held him to his breast, allowing Sarah to find eternal rest. 160 years pass into view. Her precious wedding band was found anew, as if her soul were there for all to see. Sarah, John, and the baby. Sarah, John, and the baby. I'm really happy with this guitar, the way it turned out, considering where we started. I think it looks pretty dadgum original, and don't think there's much to complain about. It plays really easy, and overall it turned out really, really well. Hope you enjoyed this very much. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and also get that subscribe button clicked if you haven't done that. I would appreciate it. We're trying to make it to 100,000 subscribers, and right at the moment we're only about 13 and change away, so let's get there. Thank you so much for watching.